Welcome back, everyone, to the Hollywood Hubbies Film Club. This is part 2 of our review of A Star is Born. Please make sure to go back and listen to part 1 if you haven't already. So we jump from the intermission. We love a good intermission in the middle of a movie so everyone can go have their potty breaks.
Right.
This is something that obviously was way more popular back in the day. We don't really get them anymore. Instead, they just make 2 parts to a movie, like Wicked. Why give us an intermission when you can make a 5-hour movie into 2 different installments?
And if you're not going to do that and you are going to give us a 3-hour movie, it's completely fine to put an intermission in there. No one's going to die if you put the words intermission up there so they can go pee. Because guess what? Someone always ends up having to use the restroom. They think that they're leaving during a possible slow point of the movie. And then what happens? You come back and the person you're sitting next to goes, oh my gosh, you missed
I
the
cannot believe
best
that.
part. And then you try to whisper real quick what happened, and then they're completely lost. So just give us an intermission.
Yeah.
3 hours or more, put an intermission.
What is the last movie that's had an intermission?
I don't know. I was trying to think.
Titanic?
You know, that came to my mind, but I think that's because I had the VHS.
Avatar?
No, I don't think they had intermissions. I think that I was thinking about Titanic because when you bought the VHS as a kid, it came on two.
As a kid.
Well, I was. Hello. I'm younger than you.
I know, right?
It came on 2 VHS tapes, and there was a moment where it was like the iceberg hit, and then it just went black, and you had to put the next video in.
Oh my God, that's so funny. It's an urban legend that's on Google. It is an urban legend that Titanic has an official intermission. It does not. People often confuse this because the movie is split into 2 VHS tapes. That is so funny. So yeah, what's the last movie to have an intermission? If anyone knows, drop it in the comments if you're listening. So Esther's a hit. Well, Vicky's a hit now, right?
We can just keep calling her Esther.
Just call her Judy.
She's fine with it.
But on the balcony of the after party, on like the terrace area, they do start to chat more about their relationship, which is good because, you know, we have to find some sort of like touching moments between them as a couple. And he does tell Esther that, you know, he's bad for her. So it is interesting that he has a real moment that we can try to identify with a bit.
You know what was interesting about that scene is that coming straight from the movie theater and seeing, you know, both of their movies are done like we said in the previous episode. Hers is a hit, his is a flop. He's kind of seeing a shift in their dynamic. Do you think that he really was having like a heart-to-heart moment, like, no, I don't think we should go on, like, I've done my part and now you can go and, you know, be a huge star. You, like, everything I touch is you know, gets ruined? Or do you think it actually is a little part of him realizes in some form that, like, oh wow, she really is like, I'm done, and she really is going to be this huge superstar? Do you think a part of it could also be a little bit of like jealousy? I mean, we see it happen later in the movie, but do you think he felt it at that moment too, that like, oh no, like he realized he was kind of over?
I don't think he's that smart.
So you really think he was just being like a generous human being and being like, I'm a drunk and everything I do. I don't know.
I don't think he's that smart because later on it pisses him off, like that she's basically taking care of him and that he's
Exactly. That's why I'm saying it now. Like, do you think he knew and then she was like, no, I love you still, so he went along with it? But do you think a little part of his brain was like, no, I know I'm going to have a problem with this because you're going to eclipse me?
I don't think that, but if you got that from it, then you got it from it. I mean, I think that's not unreasonable to think that,
especially since it happened.
But I don't think that. I think that he was being just like, oh, dopey me, like I'm gonna end up ruining this for you, which any smart man would just clearly rescind and be like, I'm good. I can bow out. I'll go do my little theater gigs here and there, but I really will take care of you and like manage your career. Like
Yeah.
any real
Well, he
man
wasn't
would do
fired
that,
yet.
you
He just
know?
kind of knew that. I think
Exactly.
he knew in the back of his
Exactly. You're
mind
right.
that like
You're right.
his star was starting to dim.
To dim, yeah. We quickly jump from this after party to back to the rehearsal sound stage where Vicky's already practicing for her upcoming role for her next film, her next upcoming role, and she sings here's what I'm here for. What is this? I don't even remember this song, and I didn't write any notes for it. What is it? The performance.
This is them in they're recording the music for the movie, so she's with the big band in the background.
Oh, this is when she's recording, yes, with the band, and they do that weird side recording where the audio picks their conversation up
Mm-hmm.
and then they replay it, which is basically yeah, it's like a little fun trick that the studio was doing where they record Esther and Norman's conversation, and then they end up doing a playing back the audio recording, which was basically Norman proposing to Esther.
Interesting that you said that you wrote 0 notes because, reading up on the production and the post-production, this was one of the 2 numbers that got cut out of the film when they were trying to make the film
Tighter. Mm-hmm.
Well, not even like they were trying to make the plot tighter. The studio was just like, this film is too long. We're not going to be able to show it multiple times a day and make more money. So they had to try to chop it down to closer to like 2 hours, I guess. So they chopped this song, and then when we get to the other one,
You'll let us know.
Yeah. But you wrote, I have no notes, or I don't even remember it. So I guess it's not that memorable.
Yeah, once again, also reminds me of Valley of the Dolls. I swear we see this musical number in Valley of the Dolls with her singing with the orchestra and the band and her having her little side conversations and stuff like that. Like I swear a lot of these, I shouldn't say a lot of
Well,
these
maybe the
scenes
director of Valley of the Dolls
was
was just a
inspired a lot
huge
by this.
Judy
Yeah.
fan, and that's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
he even tried to cast her as Helen. And then
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
He was like, I really love A Star Is Born,
Yeah.
and I want Judy in this.
You're probably right, boo.
And then he took, getting Judy Garland and Esther Blodgett confused, thought that he was putting Judy Garland scenes in the film. But
yeah. So basically, she says yes. Obviously, Esther says yes to marrying him. I don't know why I said obviously. I don't know why she would marry him, but she ends up marrying him. And
well, everyone around them is also very like excited. Even her friend.
Well, maybe
like after they record it, everyone's like, "Yay, great!" And I'm like, does nobody remember that like he's kind of crazy?
So it's interesting that we do say that, because I will say Libby and Oliver back at the studio office, they do have a disagreement about it, because they go and ask the studio head, how much time can we have off? And of course, Oliver's like, well, Norman can have off whatever time you want, but I need Vicky back here in 9 days. So already we're getting that little push in regards to how valuable Esther / Vicky is. And
But I mean, not even just the studio, because they're just thinking about numbers and money. I'm talking about Danny, her friend from the band, who said that she was a fool for leaving the job and trying to make it, and said that he's just feeding you lines to try to get with you.
Mm-hmm.
Even he's in the room during that scene, and he's part of that recording. And he seems completely fine that they want to get married. And I'm like, don't you remember you had reservations about this guy?
Yeah, and Oliver does say something to Libby along the lines of Esther being good for Norman. So
again, they're just thinking about numbers, they're thinking about publicity, and they're thinking about the studio.
And later on at the end of the film, Oliver has a scene with Esther, and he does tell her, I've been trying to fix him forever. So they have tried to do this with Norman for quite some time.
I think that it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. They do escape and do this little like kind of like a secret wedding
Mm-hmm.
down at the courthouse. Funny scene actually. I did like that the director wrote in like two people that were being held at the courthouse like prisoners that literally are like cheering for the happy married couple. I thought that that was really
Do you
really
think
cute.
that was them realizing that they were who they were, or do you think they just wanted to be part of the wedding?
I think the prisoners did know who that they were. But yeah, it was a really cute scene. So they get married at the courthouse, and Libby shows up a little too late, and he's annoyed because he obviously wanted to like you were saying, babe, he wanted to use this wedding as good publicity for Norman.
Yeah, they talked about it after they had the conversation with them at the studio. They said
Mm-hmm.
like, this is, you know, I think everyone was probably shocked that they were or that Oliver was so open to them getting married, and he's like, no, it's going to be good publicity for Norman.
Right.
Whereas other people were probably thinking like, you've got this huge new star, she's been in only a handful of movies, do you already want to marry her off?
Right.
Basically, it sounds rude to
Exactly.
say, but like, it's the studio system back then.
Yeah.
They had ownership of their entire careers,
Yes.
their names, their
It
look.
was all calculated.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, to be in the 1950s with the studio system and have your biggest star or your biggest newcomer a year, I don't know if it's a year later, but let's just say a year later or less, now gonna immediately get married,
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't have been the best idea. But when you're trying to also help your previous huge star and kind of help him have a comeback and better publicity, you kind of have to go, okay, they're going to do it anyway. Probably it'll probably work out in the end.
Right. Back at the hotel room on their honeymoon, this is where they hear one of Vicky's songs playing on the radio, and she she sings privately for Norman in this very awkward, let me turn off the radio so you can sing for me privately, even though there's still music playing.
Funny enough, this isn't the second song that they cut because it is so weird. Like, I guess it's romantic, but just having had all of the musical numbers be very organic and have it be either on stage or a rehearsal or a recording. This one is the most out of nowhere. I know that they tried to set it up like, no, I would like to hear you sing and not the radio. Like, I own the masters, or I don't even remember the way their whole Scandinavia joke that they
Yeah, yeah,
made,
yeah.
like whatever. But I know they tried to set it up like it was organic, but just then to have, maybe if it was a cappella the entire time, it would have been more organic. But then for the orchestra to start in and it just sound like a full recording of Judy Garland,
Yeah.
it just was like, okay, this is a little out of
Yeah,
nowhere.
it's set up a little strange. It is a pretty song, but it is set up very strange. I agree with you on that, babe. So after this song, we see Vicky's career like continuing to grow. Norman finds that his alcoholism is like worsening, and it basically rendered him unemployable. His last film was a flop, and Oliver decides that he has to finish out Norman's contract. All of the executives that are above Oliver, they basically say like he's too big of a risk at this point. And Oliver does drop the hint that financially he is taking care of buying out Norman's contract for the rest of it, which I think, if I understand it correctly, it means that um, they're gonna not just fire him and he doesn't get paid. That
Well, no, they told him
Oliver's
to.
gonna pay out the rest of
Yeah,
whatever
the execs
is.
told him just pay out the rest of his contract.
So it is interesting, like, they do mention some pretty keywords in there in regards to like um being a big risk for the studio at that time. um
I thought that this scene was very odd because it almost felt like his firing came out of nowhere. Had they made it more about his last movie being a flop, which they did say, but him also driving in the point about him being an alcoholic, I feel like the last couple scenes after they got married there weren't a lot of like stumbling around, drinking, going missing for a few nights. Those scenes were kind of missing during these last 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, meaning like why didn't it happen like 5 years ago?
No, meaning that it almost seemed like what they thought was going to happen was happening, meaning that Esther was being a good influence on Norman, because you weren't seeing any of these troubling alcoholic scenes happening. You're seeing him at the studio with her and them being loving. You're seeing them get married. You're seeing their honeymoon, and you're not seeing any of the negative.
Like there's not enough negative representation in him doing. Yeah, like why wasn't there another plot moment where he acted like a buffoon that ends up getting him fired? You're right.
Yeah, it just seemed like everything was going good for them and
You're
everything was
right.
going good for Norman, and that their idea was get them married. It's going to be good publicity for him. It's going to be good for his career. He was acting completely fine, and then all of a sudden he has the sit down and Oliver's like, well, your last few movies have been a flop and you can't just delay a production by being drunk all the time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, if you're going by the last few scenes we've seen, he seems like he's doing fine. So I felt like the firing came out of nowhere.
I think you're right. We almost should have had like a fight scene or something to happen publicly that made it more obnoxious. That made him more obnoxious in this moment. That made him the risk.
Yeah. So for him
favor.
to be fired, I just felt like, okay, well, he should have got fired in the beginning of the movie when he was acting like an idiot.
Yes.
Like this just seemed like Esther was being a good influence on him, and he just ended up getting fired for no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously reasons because he was a flop, but I just mean to bring up the alcohol portion, there was no recent representation in the movie of that. So I just thought it was weird.
Yeah, and he tells Oliver that in his own time and in his own way, he will break the news to Esther. Like not to do it there at their like screening or whatever it is that they're at. Because we cut to their Malibu house after that, and Norman is kind of down on his luck and even gets like a phone call from a publicity agent or like a newspaper saying like, hey, I want an interview, but not with you. I want an interview with your wife. So he's just kind of starting to feel, oh, and there's even a delivery at the door of like some flowers or whatever. There's a delivery where basically they're like looking for Vicky Lester, and then he goes to sign for it, and the guy's like, well, who the heck are you? Are you Mr. Lester? Like
it says like, thank you, Mr. Lester.
Yeah. So we're seeing him kind of down on his luck. And then
second banana.
Right. So Vicky slash Esther slash Judy, she comes home from her rehearsals and
in her maternity wear.
Yes. In her
I know I'm being rude, but I just don't like these outfits on her.
I
know that it's rehearsal. I'm being rude, but it just doesn't look cute.
I'm not the biggest, gay for Judy fan. I'm not the biggest gay for Judy.
They're going to come after me after this.
But honestly, don't people just know that this is just what they did with her? Like, didn't they just treat her this way? This is just what they did, right?
You mean like dressing her like that?
Well, yeah, like hiding her not having the greatest quote unquote Hollywood body, or lighting her in a way to give her a more presentable look or to make it look like she wasn't. I just hate talking about it because like I just don't know enough about her. But isn't it just an obvious thing that they were trying to get by? Isn't Judy on set for a movie just, we gotta get her through this, you guys? Kind of like Marilyn had that reputation later in life.
Yeah.
Like I don't know enough about Judy to say it, but it's like, it's just not that shocking to me that they have her looking this way in this movie.
It's just part of me kind of looks at outfits like this and goes, okay, she just came home from rehearsal. So she's not supposed to be glamorous. But then the other part of my brain goes, they're obviously trying to hide a fluctuation in her weight, but
Yeah.
doing it that way, I think brings more um focus to it, which is a shame because it shouldn't be about her weight, but like putting her in like a triple X t-shirt and little spandex like leggings, it's like just an obvious way of trying to be like, we got to cover up Judy's weight
I
gain, which is a
know.
shame. There were other scenes where she was in gowns and I was like, she looks fine. She looks great.
I guess people were just really harsh. Well, we know people were harsh on her at that time. It sucks that the system was that way. It sucks that the system was
Yeah.
that way. But the system is still that way now.
I think you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you put on a little weight, people are going to talk about it. If you lose a little weight, they're going to talk about it. They're not going to be happy with you ever.
Yeah, it's
When
like
I
it's not
bring
even
up
your
these
business.
outfits, I just want to clarify. When I bring up these outfits, I'm in no way talking about Judy's weight. I'm talking about the laziness I feel comes with these like get-ups that they're putting her into, obviously.
Yes.
Like there was another scene where she was rehearsing and it looked like she was wearing like a jacket. And I was like, why is she rehearsing in this big old jacket?
Yeah,
Like, just let her be. Let her, no one cares about what her body
I
looks like.
know.
Just let her wear a normal outfit. You don't have to put her in this big schlumpy
Right.
thing.
Right. You're talking about
I'm
exactly.
talking
You're
about the
talking about
laziness
the
of the
laziness of the
costume
costuming.
being like,
Exactly.
we don't know what to do with her. It's your job to make her look good. It's not your job to just
Yeah.
hide the quote unquote problem. So yeah, that this next number,
Yeah.
not a fan of the outfit.
It's very sweet how excited she is to just stay in with her little TV cart of like food that Norman made, of just like a tossed salad and some of the most delicious looking homemade sandwiches that I've ever seen. It is really cute.
Those were some big old sandwiches. They
Yeah,
look like after
they
Thanksgiving
look
turkey
so
sandwiches.
tasty.
Let's get a sandwich after this.
Yeah, right? It really, it was very sweet how I felt like that was so real, because I'm sure so many stars out there, when they get home, the number one thing they look forward to is their spouse or assistant or chef just making them like a homemade meal that they could just like relax and kick their feet up with. And I thought that that was very, very cute.
Yeah, she didn't want to go out on the town and like go to the Brown Derby and like be
Yeah.
seen. She wanted to go home to her husband and just spend time and eat a sandwich. Like it
Yeah.
was very relatable and down to earth.
Yeah, because
Like
even as not
I'm
celebrities,
not a star
yeah,
and I go to work for 8 or 9 hours and I want to go home and like put on my favorite show
munch.
and yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Munch.
Munch. So we jump into this someone at last number because Vicky wants to preview to Norman what new songs they've been working
I
on.
love the dub right there too. They had to quickly add a line of like, how is she putting this record on right now? And she's like, she runs over to put on the vinyl and she's like, let me put on the let me put on the rehearsal vinyl or whatever she says, because it's like there has to be a reason why she has this recording of this song, but like it just sounds so like we had to add it after the fact during the editing.
And we jump into someone at last. Wow.
It,
This is grueling.
mm-hmm.
It is so long.
It should have been cut.
It is
It
so clunky.
100% should have been cut.
Judy looks exhausted. She doesn't even look like she's having fun doing this song.
Mm-hmm.
It's rough. This is probably the most rough of all the songs.
The entire performance I could do without. It wasn't necessary. She didn't need to come. I would have rather them have filmed a scene of them just, I haven't seen you in a really long time. How are you doing? What's going on? Like a talking scene. For her to have been at rehearsal all day long and she just wants to go home to her husband and eat a sandwich, but she's like, no, let me show you this 7-minute number that I'm working on. I just don't feel like that part of it was relatable.
It is not, if they could see me now. It is not those type of like sweet charity dancing all around the apartment.
It's supposed to be a silly number and it comes off that way, and I don't really enjoy it. And, it's not my favorite of the entire film. There are much better songs and there are much better moments. And if they were going to cut, I feel like their job shouldn't have been to cut out key plot points. They could have done with 3 or 4 Judy numbers and then cut out 3 or 4. There were certain ones that just did nothing for the plot, and I feel like this one did nothing for the plot.
We fast forward from this to Vicky's big night, which is basically the Oscars. I'm assuming it's for this. No, it's for the last movie that came out, right? It's not for the movie that she's working on. We don't get that much of a time lapse, I don't think, right, babe?
I don't know how many years have gone by, and I don't remember the name of the first one, but I know that she's being nominated for a film called A World for Two.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I don't know how long of a time. That this happens quite a few times in this movie where you and I are like, how far along are
Yeah.
we into this?
What's the time lapse?
the
Is she
time
still a
lapse-
star? I mean, is she still a newcomer or is she a star?
Yeah. The night of the Oscars, Norman arrives late, of course.
In the middle of her speech, having won for A World for Two.
Yeah, so she wins for A World for Two. Norman arrives late and drunk, obviously, and starts ranting off to the audience. And
Yeah, gets up on stage, interrupts her speech, and starts ranting about needing a job.
scolds them all about how they all turned their backs on him and how he needs a job. And when Vicky attempts to calm Norman down, he accidentally turns his hand too quickly and slaps her in the face. To, of course, which everyone's like, oh my gosh, how could this happen?
It's such a cringe and sad scene. It's so horrible to watch.
It obviously is supposed to make us feel very uncomfortable. And
it did its job.
Yeah, it definitely did its job. What I do not understand is why no one has dragged Norman out of there. How did they even let him get on stage for him to do all this? And I know it's part of the plot and I need to use my imagination, but who are all these pansies? These men need
Not pansies.
These men need to freaking drag his ass out of there. I don't understand why everyone babies him throughout this entire movie. Was the latest one with Gaga and Cooper? Were they the same way with him? Were they all just very much oh, let's not harm this guy, or let's just all dance around his feelings? What? It's so obnoxious, you guys. Why nobody has just not put this guy in his place?
Norman, throughout the movie, when he gets drunk, is a lot more angry and aggressive. I think that when Bradley Cooper is on stage, they kind of switched it to him being totally belligerent, to the point of I can't even stand, and then he pees himself. So he's more of from what I remember, I feel like he's more of a tragic embarrassment on himself, whereas Norman, they kind of show him as kind of an angry drunk. I don't think that he looks like he's strong enough to be the Incredible Hulk and people are scared of him, but it often looks like people are scared of him. And I agree with you. This should have been the moment where Libby and Oliver got up, walked up there, grabbed him by the arms and said, let's go, buddy, or something, just tried to make it. And had he tried to resist, that's when I feel like Libby should have knocked him one, because I don't think that this was on television. This is just a room of people. This wouldn't have got out much besides the newspapers. And he already made a fool of himself. At this point, him accidentally slapping his wife and then having to have her sit next to him and pretend that everything's okay.
Yeah.
This is the biggest moment of her career and nobody could have helped her out. She had to fend for herself up there and be like, come on, honey, let's go sit down. None of the men that were there to protect her, the head of her studio or the publicity guy, couldn't have thought on their feet to figure out some way to get him out of there.
Yeah, I don't get it. They sit him down literally to have dinner next to her afterwards.
And I don't feel bad for him. He accidentally slaps his wife, and then the whole rest of the scene, he's sitting there with tears in his eyes. And it's
He's sitting there with tears in his eyes and asks for a drink.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't feel bad for the guy.
right?
This is where we get into the jealousy that I was talking about that I felt like was coming out earlier. This obviously is not just a cry for help for himself. I feel like he purposely wait he started clapping. He's off to the side, she's doing her speech and he starts clapping and then gets up there to interrupt her. He obviously wanted to ruin her moment and make it about himself. Therein lies the jealousy that I was talking about because he's upset that he's not a star anymore, you know.
It kind of reminded me of that Will Smith situation with Chris Rock, how everybody like was like dancing around it for the whole evening. I was like, "What? Why didn't why was security not up there dragging his ass out of that place?" Like he literally does that thing and goes and sits back down at his table. Get out of here with that, man.
It is weird in general when it comes to awards. Why are there not like security at the staircases so nobody can get up there and like Will Smith slap someone or like Lil Mama get up there and be part of
Yeah.
a performance with Jay-Z? It's like you gotta. Why is there not more security when you have something that's live on television? I think this might have been on the radio. I don't know if the Academy Awards were supposed to be on television at that time. I don't know
Yeah.
when they switched from radio to live, but regardless, who who dropped the ball and everyone just froze in their seat like when you see this guy go up and completely ruin the entire
I know.
the you know the entire best actress speech. It's just kind of a bummer, which it's meant to be, but
Right.
it was done well because it did make me mad.
Yeah, me too. So we have another time lapse. We don't know how long though, you guys. Don't ask us, but we have another time lapse where it cuts to a sound stage where Esther has her next movie, and we get a song that's called "Lose That Long Face." It is more of like a street kind of tap number.
Mm-hmm.
I will say definitely another favorite number of mine. Love the dance number. The two kids, the two tap dancing kids, are so freaking talented. All three of them together are really, really cool. They're costumed very well in this scene where the three main dancers have red accents on their costumes, but everybody else is in this muted, like gray color. So I thought that that was really, really cool. But I do like this number, and I think you mentioned earlier, babe, that you do like that we get some scenes of her in her dressing room being depressed about what's going on in her home life, but having to basically put on her makeup and put on a smile and go out there and act her butt off.
Yes. This was the second number that got cut out of the film, which it is a great number.
Yeah, that's shocking to me.
It's not that shocking to me because I feel like we went from such a heavy, it is so bright and light and fun and happy. And I understand why they did that, but I think there could have been a way to do it to make it uh less jarring, if that makes any sense. You go from the Academy Awards with this where this horrible thing happens, then you have 3 minutes of this really bright number. Then you go to Judy's dressing room where she has her talk with, you see her sitting there getting her hair and makeup done. She looks frazzled. She looks like she's on the verge of a nervous breakdown. She has to have this conversation with Oliver, and then she gives her monologue about what's happening at home with Norman and her situation with his alcoholism and how bad it's gotten.
That he went to like a sanitarium, right?
Yes, he's in a sanitarium, and before we get into that actual monologue, I just wanted to go into, I feel like had they faded in to the last maybe 20 seconds of this really happy number, gone to her dressing room, had that scene, and then had her have to wipe her eyes, put on her freckles, and then go back out there and finish the number again. So it kind of went from smile, sadness back to having to plaster on the smile, I think we would have understood what was going on. I just feel like the number kind of comes out of nowhere because it is so bubbly and happy and sweet,
Mm,
saccharine sweet, that I don't think that we maybe needed the entire thing right there in that moment. I
got
think it's like if it were just by itself and it was just a recording of her singing that song, great number. The placement of it to me feels a little,
not your fave.
yeah.
That scene, the
Hmm.
big monologue scene between Oliver and Esther. Um, yeah, obviously, I mean, this is her big scene. Everybody always talks about this scene when they review this movie, when they talk about it in documentaries, when they show it in made for TV movies. I mean, like, this is like the scene that they use as the point of reference for this movie. Um, Kudos to Judy for this scene. I
Hmm.
mean, it is great. Um, it's there's not cuts. I mean, it is a big long take,
Hmm.
which at that time, that was something that really showed you had those acting chops.
Yeah.
Um,
I know that this was a very hard scene for her to film, and that one of the things that I've read about is that George Cukor, obviously knowing the struggles that Judy had in her own life with alcoholism and drug use and just, you know, herself in real life mirroring a lot of what Norman Maine was going through in the movie, he sat her down to talk with her. I don't know if they had already been having issues with the scene and he needed to talk to her, or if it was just a pep talk before, but he sat her down and basically told her, without saying it too obvious, he told her, like, Judy, you know this, you understand this, so I know you can do this, basically. So I think that kind of helped her get into the emotion of it, because she was basically talking about herself, because those were the exact struggles that she was having in her own career. And I think
mm,
he needed to kind of pull that out of her without
got it.
saying, like, hey, Judy, you're a big old drunk. Like, I know you know what this is like. He kind of told her, like, you know this.
Got it.
So it's a very hard watch.
I do think she has better acting moments in this film. I'm not going to lie. I do think she has other scenes that her acting is stronger and don't feel as forced, but kudos for her for getting through this long scene. I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
she does a
One
great
take.
job with it
Mm-hmm.
with the one take. But yeah, acting wise, I can see with what you're saying because I do think that maybe they had to like pull it out of her to get the emotions out of her because I do think that her natural ability at acting flourishes better in other scenes that she has rather than this one. But it is a great scene. And it's, yeah, technically, it's very, very well done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Once again, I don't know enough Judy history to know what was going on in her life that they had to get her to that point. But once again, I from what I know, I think they were happy that she got through a lot of her scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think that it's a good monologue. It's definitely, if you are a Judy Garland fan and you do know her backstory, it is kind of, I don't know what the word is. Is it meta? Like, it almost feels
Sure.
like she's talking about herself in the third person.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of, it's rough to see that. And I mean,
Now, would people know that then? Would this scene have hit different for people back then?
I don't know. I think that I mean, they knew that she was getting fired from jobs. They knew she got fired from MGM.
Yeah.
I don't know how well the media and publicity department was doing back in the day, whether they were just saying she was sick all the time or what. So I don't know how it hits back then. I
Sure.
know that I know how it hits now, and people knowing so much about her life, I think that they watch the scene and, number one, go, wow, what a freaking talented actress. But then also, you are able to kind of pinpoint the similarities that she's talking about in her own struggles.
Yeah.
So it is sad.
So Oliver goes to visit Norman in his like rehab house. That kind of looks more like a halfway house more than anything. Um it's
Yeah, I
interesting.
don't know what they looked like back then.
Yeah.
They didn't
Didn't look
they
like
didn't have
a
this whole thing in a hospital.
yeah. It
So
wasn't like a rehab like kind of like, type of place. It was the set was a little different. Um yeah, Oliver goes and offers Norman a role to get, you know, Norman back in the saddle with acting. And Norman seems a bit in denial and turns up the offer at the role because it's a very small supporting role, right, babe?
yeah, I know that at the end of the last scene in the dressing room, she had asked him, or he had kind of suggested, like, do you think that, you know, if he's really doing that bad, do you think maybe getting him back in a film would help? And she said yes and thank you.
Yeah,
And
it'll lift his spirits. And
so, he goes to visit him in the sanitarium, asks him how he's doing. And then I know that one thing that was discussed was like, if it's a small role, tread lightly not to hurt him, basically, which ends up happening because he tries to frame it as, I've got this great role for you and it's not very big, but it's memorable, and you're gonna be the only thing people leave talking about, this little great role. But once he realizes that it is, a pity role, basically, like, he is not being asked to be the lead, he's being asked to be a small supporting character. He makes up a lie about being on the brink of a huge contract with another studio, and he's got all of these films lined up and there's no way that he could possibly do it. And, basically lets his pride get in the way. He's not going to let himself be put in this little itty bitty part, which is a shame because having already been in the sanitarium and having trying to get his life back together, had he just, been quiet and done his little role and kind of showed that he was, reliable again, I think he could have got his life back together. But, you know, see, neither here nor there.
yeah, it's not
There's,
in his future.
yeah. So it's just a bummer that you're watching it and you realize that he's not gonna move his pride anywhere. He's gonna, ruin his chances yet again.
So after Norman gets out, he goes and visits the racetrack and he runs into Libby, the publicity manager. And basically, Libby mocks him and, confirms to him that they've never been friends and that Libby's just had to basically baby Norman through the end of his career. And he mocks him, saying that he's living on Vicky's money, and are you just gonna be here at the racetrack gambling your wife's money away? And it results into a fight that gets prompted between them. Um, Libby ends up, slugging him, and Norman asks for a drink and goes on a bit of a drinking binge. Everybody sees it publicly. There are people there. And when Norman,
Well, it's
yeah,
kind of a shame because he shows up and nobody wants anything to do with him. Like, even when he tries to say hi to other people, they're kind of turning their faces. He does order a ginger ale and then gets in this fight with Libby. And what's funny is that he lands on the ground after being punched, having not even had a drink, and people automatically are going, "Oh, he's drunk, he's wasted. Here he goes again." Like, the cycle continues, kind of. And that's when he gets up and orders his drink. So it's kind of a bump, like a so sad to watch because, like, he hadn't even had a drink yet, and people already assumed the worst of him. I mean, to be perfectly honest, having just come out of rehab, I don't think he should have been at the racetrack gambling and everyone around him is drinking. Maybe that wasn't the best place to go.
yeah, maybe he should be
So,
working.
well, he didn't want that job.
Yeah. Anyway, that's too bad. So he goes on a drinking binge and he ends up crashing his car, getting arrested, and gets sentenced to 90 days in jail. But um, Esther is able to bail him out. She shows up there and pleads with the judge letting him know
against the studio's
Will.
wishes. They're
Yeah,
like, no, we got it. We're like, don't go there. And she's like, no, that's my husband. I'm gonna go. So she shows up and begs the judge to be lenient.
yeah, and they're later on um joined by Oliver at at their house because Esther's now basically, yeah, she's quote unquote in charge of making sure that Norman doesn't go on any more binge.
Yeah, she tells the judge like, I
I'll take care
promise
of
I'll take
him.
care of him. This won't happen again. So she feels like totally responsible for him now.
Exactly. She informs Oliver that she's going to retire and basically instead of acting, she's going to now be Norman's like caregiver and like really like take care of him and make sure he gets what he needs. And Oliver is basically saying like, why would you do that? Norman's the one that's made poor life choices. It's his responsibility to bear this on him alone. um Really good scene between these two out on like the terrace of the house. I once again think that Judy's acting here way more natural, and yeah, I really like this scene between the two. But Norman, even though he's in the bedroom, we do get some clear shots that he is overhearing everything that's going on between Oliver and Esther about how she wants to quit acting, give up her career for Norman. And so we see this like guilt start to come over Norman as he's in bed.
I
Um
think this is James Mason's best acting in the movie, and it's
it's good
without
and
any
it's without
words.
words, exactly.
Just him in bed, and you see him like rubbing his head, and like he's freaking out because he realizes that like he I feel like he finally realizes like he wanted her to succeed so bad, and she's willing to give it all up to help him, and he
Right.
finally realizes how selfish he is, or how selfish he's been, even though he did warn her before they got married like,
Hmm.
I ruin everything. Even beyond that, them actually being married, he has made such a mess of everything. So I think he's finally kind of grappling with, like you said, that guilt.
Yeah, I do think this is also his best acting scene. I do agree with you, babe. Um, and it's shot really well too. I love the lighting in the bedroom. Um, just kind of something cool to point out. Technically, it is getting a bit darker the way that the films are being shot in these scenes, and it really helps with the way that the plot is going. So yeah, finally realizing what he's done to himself and to Vicky and his career, hurting the people around him. Norman wakes up and tells Vicky that he's going to go for a swim, and he ends up walking into the ocean and basically drowns himself. So that's the conclusion to Norman's story.
That was a very pretty scene, I thought. I like how they did the same line twice. Like in the beginning of the film, after he had had his night driving around with Esther, taking her home. And then when she walks into her apartment and he calls her name and says, I just wanted to get one last look. And then, him standing there knowing he's about to do what he's going to do, she goes to the kitchen to make them some food, and he's asked her to sing, and then he calls her and says, I want to just take one last look. It is very sad because you know what's coming. So I thought that was interesting for them to use that line twice. That was
Mm-hmm.
very very sad.
So we cut to then Norman's funeral, where Esther is mobbed by reporters and insensitive fans about everything that's happened. I guess she's become a bit of a recluse because her pianist, Danny, he ends up showing up to her to basically let her know that she had agreed to attend a big charity function that was going on.
That looks very similar to like the Night of the Stars in the beginning.
It does.
So I think it's supposed to be like the same thing.
Oh, got it.
Because she's like next in line on the list. And
yes, you're right.
oh my God.
Full circle. Can we talk about this Danny scene right here?
Well, I wrote that he got the best speech in the film.
Right? Agreed.
I like
literally those are my notes too, babe. This
I
is
imagine,
probably one of the strongest scenes in the entire film.
Again, he's giving his big brother energy, and he's doing what you like to do when someone's upset. Like, he's not sitting there like giving her a hug and letting her cry and like, it's okay, you can just mope in your room by yourself. He's like, no, get up.
Yeah, get
like
up,
he's
shower,
he's
put
not
this dress on. You made an agreement and said you were going to go to this event.
Mm-hmm. Well, not even just about the event. He's saying, like, is this what you're going to do with the rest of your life? You're just going to sit here and mope?
Yes.
Like, all you're doing, you're doing exactly what Norman didn't want you to do.
Right.
Like, he didn't want you to give up your career, and this is exactly what you're doing. So you're not doing anything for his memory. You're actually erasing what he wanted.
Exactly.
So he's giving her the strongest tough love he's given her the entire film, and I think that that's what she needed. And it doesn't come off as mean at all. It's like, I think it's exactly what she needed to hear, because she can't just sit in a dark room and just wither away the rest of her life. She needs to get up and live.
Exactly, which prompts her to going to this event, and she does see the lipstick written on the wall between her and Norman.
I know we didn't really talk about that during the earlier scene, but it was
you mentioned it briefly.
It was a very cute scene.
Yeah, and so she sees that written on the wall, and exactly what you were saying, that Danny really pushed her to do, instead of erasing his memory and forgetting, her career and all of this. She goes up on stage, and the last line of the film is her basically greeting everyone and saying that she's Mrs. Norman Maine, instead of saying that she's Vicky Lester. And so that's just an important pivotal moment, because the crowd, of course, stands up and cheers, gives a standing ovation. But yeah, I think the film is wrapped up in that way, that she's gonna, in his honor, she's gonna be the star that he wanted her to be. That's what I got from it, that last scene.
I think that they were right in ending it there, even though he had said, "Oh, Vicky Lester's here to perform a song." I think they were right to just end it with that line, because it is a very powerful ending to the film. I'm shocked that they didn't add a musical number.
Yeah, like her sitting on the edge of the stage, being like, "Smile," right?
No,
why was she Ethel Merman?
No, no,
Right?
Not that at all.
We didn't end with that.
No, and I don't think that she could sit down in her dress.
In her gown.
But yeah, I know that they did that with the 2018 version, where they had her show up and record or perform a final number. I'm glad they didn't do this with this one. It was great to just have her say her line and have it fade into the end of the film.
Agreed. We don't need a random like ballad. We don't need Smile at the end of this.
You really want her to perform Smile?
No. I'm just I'm saying that seems like that would be a song you would sing.
All right, so that concludes A Star Is Born. We have reached the end. So what was your favorite overall thing about this film?
Definitely the acting. I thought that the acting was pretty strong across the board, even all of the supporting characters. But I think that it really holds up. I feel like you could, I know I say this sometimes, but I feel like you could delete all of the songs from this and it would still hold up pretty strong. How about you?
I agree. And actually, I was going to ask you, do you think that this film would hold up as a drama without any of the
Well,
music?
we know it would because you said the original
Hmm.
it has no music. So I definitely want to go back and listen to that. I mean, watch that. But yeah, you agree the acting's the best?
Don't ask it like that. um, yeah, there are some songs that I think are amazing. Like I said earlier, I think "The Man That Got Away" is one of Judy's best songs that she's ever recorded. Um, but yes, I think that the thing that really leaves an impression is that I think that this is, out of all of her films, I think that this is her best acting to date. It's sad that it was probably one of her last films. I know that she had a few after, but this is probably her last big studio film that she was part of. Um, but I feel like uh, it it left a big impression.
What was your least favorite thing about this film?
Least favorite is probably not the film's fault. It's the studio for doing their hack job. I wish that we had the complete director's cut without all of the weird picture puppet shows that they tried to do.
Yeah, I can
I
understand that.
know why they did it, because they wanted to give people the full plot of the things that were missing, that kind of gave plot holes in the original theater edit. So I'm glad they did. I just always tell people when I recommend this film, like, just get through those parts. I know, because I know that when I first put on the DVD and I watched it, it was jarring. I was like, oh God, it kind of takes you out of it. So you kind of have to be prepared for it just so you can listen to the actual plot and not be staring at these weird pictures going like, what's going on?
Hmm.
Like, it's a weird hack job. They tried to fix it for the plot. So it's kind of needed, but it's also my least favorite. And I wish that we just had the scenes the way that they were originally filmed. But, back in the day, they chopped something, it went on the floor, and they swept it away. Like, it was very rare that you have behind the scenes things. They didn't save much. If it got cut, it got cut.
I will agree with you on that. But to say something a little different, I do feel like some of the songs do get dropped in a bit clunky. I know you said there was some conversation about certain songs being cut from it and whatnot.
Hmm.
I do feel like some of the songs get dropped in a little bit clunky. I do feel like sometimes it's okay that, like, we're watching a musical. We don't need an explanation for every time like a song is going to happen. I definitely enjoyed this movie a lot.
I can agree that as it got towards the end, I felt like they got placed in a lot weirder. I think that her intro song where she's at the concert, great, makes sense. I know you disagree, but I think her "Man That Got Away" while she's just jamming with her band, I thought that was great. Um, the ones that I could do without, um, I think that the movie preview with the "Born in a Trunk" number, I feel like that is very, very, very long. It's a very long number. It has great moments in it, but it's just reprise on reprise on reprise. Even at the end, I felt like there was an ending moment, and I know that I had exclaimed while we were watching it. I was like, "Oh, she's still going." They're giving her a full, because she ends Swanee, and then they go back to her finishing out Born in a Trunk. And I didn't know they were. I forgot that they were going to do that because I felt like they kept giving her like endings to her songs, and I was like, "This is just too long of a number."
And then that number inside the apartment, forget it.
Oh, her.
Yeah. But I don't want to talk about the songs that I liked and don't like. I particularly just mean how they're inserted.
No, I agree. I'm not talking about the actual song, because I like that other number that you like as well. The one, the
The tap dance
"Lose the
number.
Long
Uh-huh.
Face." I think it's a great number. I think it's just it. If you were,
Clunked in.
if
Funky.
you had just watched this terrible Academy Award scene, and it's so awkward, and it's so jarring, and then you go right into Judy doing this tap number, I could kind of see why they cut it out, because it doesn't do much plot wise. It
Yeah.
kind of takes you out of, it just feels like it comes out of nowhere, this happy jolly scene.
This one's kind of a silly question for this because we know what the legacy was like, but how do you feel about the legacy or how this impacted culture?
Well, I mean, it wasn't the original A Star is Born, but I feel like it's maybe not just this film, but obviously something about A Star is Born resonates with people, and that's why it continues to be made over and over and over and over again.
Gosh, is there even a TV version of it? Probably.
Yeah, there is. I looked it up. In the 50s, like a few years before this, there was one of those Montgomery something presents where they would do their hour-long live teleplays. They did an hour-long version of this as well.
Yeah.
They have done it on radio. They have done it on TV. There are 4 movies. There is one Bollywood movie.
How is there? Oh, that's not shocking, actually. I bet you it's awesome.
I don't know. We're going to have to ask Ingrid if she's seen it.
I'm shocked there's not a Broadway musical of this.
You know?
How has it not been a Broadway musical? Come on, Gaga, start penning some original music for
That's what I was going to say, is that
not be in it.
No, not that.
But
I meant sadly for me, I'm such a fan of the 54 version, and I know that now that the 2018 version was such a smash hit and made so much money, if they did decide to make it a stage musical, I feel like it would be based on that one.
Oh, of course.
And I feel like I would want it to be classic. I would want it to be
that won't sell tickets.
Period.
Yeah. We wish it would be, but that won't sell tickets.
Well,
unfortunately. But
we already have enough movie to musical versions that they're going to plop $20 million in, and they're going to flop. So if they want to do this one as well, I mean, if they're going to find people that are going to pay money, then it doesn't sound like my cup of tea.
Throw Nicole Scherzinger in it and sell some tickets.
God. Yeah, and I don't even dislike the 2018 version. I thought it was good, but I'm just saying that, like, of all of the versions, I wish they would, if they were going to make a stage version, I wish they would do it.
I only saw
this one.
I only saw it once. All right, well, that about wraps it up. Here we go. We're going to spin the wheel for our next movie musical, you guys. Here we go.
Okay, so our next film that we will be reviewing will be 1979's All That Jazz.
Okay, very cool. Don't think I've ever seen it before. Maybe I have. I don't know. I guess we'll find out when we watch it.
Right? Directed by Bob Fosse, starring Roy Schneider, Jessica Lange, and Ryan King. Woo! And many more. But yes.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for listening in. We greatly appreciate it. We want to hear from you guys out there, so please drop some comments. Please follow us on social media at Hollywood Hubbies. We are on Instagram and TikTok, so please look for us and find us, and share our podcast so we can get some more followers and listeners and whatnot.
Yes. Follow. Leave comments. Disagree with us. Agree with us.
Correct
us. Tell us how much you like the dog barking and the cars driving by every 5 seconds. Up.
There's so much traffic outside our house today.
Jiminy crickets.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.